Hi, everyone. We are just simply waiting for more people to show up. We're going to start in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, you guys can consider taking our polls so that we get a little bit more information from everyone. 你好，等多5分鐘，我哋就會開始。請如果你見到呢個投票嘅信號，請選擇你需要投票嘅問題。
大家好，欢迎大家来到今天晚上的讲座。我们大概会在5分钟之后开始，我们现在在开着等，让多一些人进来。然后希望在这个时间里面，如果你看到那个投票的话，你可以看一下，这个会帮助我们之后去处理这个讲座应该用哪一个语言。如果你会说广东话或者是普通话的话，还有英语的话，请跟我们说，那我们可以容易去安排今天晚上的语言。
So I just want to let everyone know that this is being recorded. If you have anything personal to say, please refrain from speaking aloud. There will be a questions and answers session right after this presentation. So please do not share any personal details. This information session is for information only. None of the materials provided constitutes as legal advice. 請注意呢一個講座係錄低嘅。如果你有任何私人嘅資料，千祈唔好説出口。過咗呢一個講座，你係可以問問題，但係私人嘅資料就唔好公開。呢一個講座係只係提供移民嘅資料，唔係代表你我或者俾移民法律嘅資訊。多謝。
大家好，今天这个讲座会给录像的所以如果你有任何的一些资料的话，个人资料的话，请不要公开的说。还有如果你想有问题的话，你可以等到最后的一个Q&A 这个问答环节里面发问。最后我们今天的讲座只是一个资讯而不是一个，并不构成一个法律的意见。
And now our panelists will introduce themselves. Thanks. 而家我哋嘅講座會I don't remember how to say introduce.
今日我哋講座嘅，而家我哋會開始去俾我哋嘅嘉賓去介紹下自己。我們現在讓一些嘉賓介紹一下自己。
Hi, I guess I should go first. Hi, my name is Jennie Kim. I'm an immigration attorney with Queens Legal Services. It is wonderful to be here with you, amazing panelists, and also you who came here to learn about your rights and in this confusing time. It is an honor to be here, and we hope that you will learn something that's going to be very useful to you and your family and your community.
大家好，我個名係 Jennifer Kim。我係 Queens Legal Service 嘅移民律師。今日好高興知道你今日可以出嚟去了解有關於移民嘅最新嘅一啲資訊，等可以去幫助你哋同埋你哋嘅家人。多謝。謝謝大家。我的名字叫 Jennifer Kim。我是 Queens Legal Service 的移民律師。今天很高興你們有出來去學習一下有關於移民法的一些資訊，然後去幫助你們還有你們家人。謝謝。
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ting, and I am an immigration attorney from Catholic Charities. Thank you for attending tonight's event. We really hope that you will find this presentation useful, and we look forward to speaking with you later during the question and answer session.
大家好，我個名係 Ting，我係Catholic Charities 嘅移民律師。今日好高興知道能夠去同大家去講有關移民法嘅問題。亦都好期待同大家去回答有關大家嘅問題，有關移民嘅問題。大家好，我叫 Ting，我是Catholic Charities 的一個移民律師。然後今天很高興可以跟大家分享一下有關於移民的問題。然後我期待大家跟我們之後在這個講座之後去做出交流。謝謝。
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Annie Wang, and I am an attorney with the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and I head up our Immigrant Justice Project. I look forward to talking to you about the changes in immigration policy under the new Biden administration.
大家好，我個名係 Annie，我係Audef 嘅移民律師。今日好高興能夠同大家去講有關於新嘅政府之下嘅新嘅移民政策。同時我都係我嘅組織 Audef 裏面嘅Immigration Justice 嘅領導。大家好，我叫 Annie，我是Audef 的移民律師。也是在那个组织里面带领那边的移民的公益的小组，然后今天很高兴去跟大家说一下有关于这新的政府之下的一些新的移民政策，谢谢大家。May, I'm not sure if you can see. Can you see the poll to see what language is the predominant language?
So yes, let me just show you the slide. So far we have 7 out of 8 people choosing Mandarin. If I think given we have only one person who speaks Cantonese, I think it should be safe if we can actually provide a Mandarin interpretation of this presentation instead.
I agree. 谢谢大家的投票。基于现在我们看到有大部分的人都會說普通話，那我們今天晚上都會用普通話嚟進行。多謝大家嘅投票。基於投票結果，我哋見到大部分嘅人都識講普通話，咁我哋將會用普通話去講呢個講座。多謝大家。Anything, Jennifer, Jenny, which one do you want to start?
Can you, I don't know who's advancing the slides, but can we go to the next slide? I'm going.
Annalise?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to cover some of the major changes that have already happened to U.S. immigration policy.
我将会说一下有关于拜登政府移民政策已经开始了的移民政策。
As well as some proposals to change immigration laws and policy.
还有一些将会去提出来去提案的一些移民政策提案。
Great, thank you. So I'm going to start out with the new Biden administration's executive orders to reverse actions on immigration under the old administration.
我们先说一下有关于拜登政府推翻之前的政府的一些政策。
And as you can see from the slides, we're talking about orders that were issued during the first 100 days of the new administration.
我们现在说的是拜登政府的头100天的变化。
Thank you. So among the major new orders that President Biden announced were a set of new Department of Homeland Security and Immigration Customs and Enforcement policies on civil enforcement, and these are interim policies.
拜登政府昨天做出了对一些美国国土和安全部，还有一个移民局移民的执法局，做出了一些有关于民事执行的一些政策。
So these interim policies list which groups of non-citizens are subject to enforcement as well as detention.
这些临时政策是有关于哪一种非美国公民是被去执行法律，还有去遣返。
I should mention that even though the Biden administration, and even before President Biden was elected, had promised to order a pause on deportations. That it did not happen because of a lawsuit.
我们知道之前拜登有说过会暂停这个遣返，但是没有实行到，因为目前有一个诉讼在进行中。
Thank you. That's important to know.
这个很重要的。
Also, the U.S. Department of Justice stopped their defense of the public charge regulations.
还有就是美国的司法部停止去为有关于非法的公共这些使用的一个规范的辩护。
And they were essentially considered by the Biden administration to be unlawful, which is why the administration reversed the former administration's public charge policy.
基本上就是他们觉得一些有关的法律是不合法的，所以他们停止去或者是流转了之前的政府的一些政策。
So we are back in the position we were in before the former administration changed the public charge policy. We're back to the old 1999 public charge rule.
I'm sorry, Annie, do you say 1999?
99, yeah, 1999.
所以现在拜登政府已经推翻了之前的就是前任的政府所做出的有关于一些公共福利的一些移民政策，而回到了之前1999年的以前的政策。
Okay, if we have time, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I do want to go forward. So the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which I'm going to refer to after this as USCIS, stopped implementing a fee increase rule.
美国移民局停止了这个费用增加的一个规则。
Yes, so under the former administration, many types of immigration applications would have seen substantial increases in filing fees.
在之前的政府的政策之下，会有一个很大量的一个增加这些移民申请的费用。
But that is no longer happening.
但现在已经没有再发生了。
The other major change during the first 100 days is that USCIS eliminated barriers to naturalization, which people know as citizenship, by reinstating a civics examination that is fairer and is not politicized.
另外一个拜登政府的头100天的变化就是美国的移民局移除了有关于入职的一些困难，就是把比较公平的一个考试，用一个公平的考试，而不会用一个政治化的考试去处理入职的申请。
Next slide, please. So now I'm going to be talking about proposals to change our U.S. immigration laws. But please keep in mind that no law has actually been passed.
那所以之后接下来我们会说一下有关于移民法律的一些提案，但是请记得这些提案还没有被通过的。
Yes. So the first of the bills that I will be discussing is called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
第一个我们会讨论的是叫做美国公民法2021。
So the U.S. Citizenship Act is a proposed bill that has 5 different sections that try to address many of the problems that we know are happening with our immigration system.
这个法提案主要是有5个部分，那他们都是我们现在不知道现存的一些移民的制度里面比较常见的问题。
Okay, so first of all, this bill would establish an 8-year path to earned citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants.
首先就是这个提案会建立一个制度，让目前1100万无证的移民去给他一个8年的入职的一个途径。
So the U.S. Citizenship Act would allow undocumented immigrants who arrived in the U.S. under the age of 18, as well as their spouses and children, to apply for a green card and to naturalize after 3 years.
这个提案会容许一些在18岁以下来到美国的无证移民，包括这个 DACA 的一些受益人，还有他们的伴侣，还有他们小孩，去申请一个绿卡，还有在3年之后去申請入籍。
So I didn't at first say including DACA recipients because it would apply to any undocumented person who entered under the age of 18, and that includes DACA recipients, but it's a even larger group of undocumented young people.
我之前没有说到特别提到这个 DACA 的受益人，因为这个是所有18岁以下的一些儿童，所以这个是包括了更多的人，而不是仅仅是DACA 的一些受益者。
So in addition to the undocumented young immigrants, this U.S. Citizenship Act would allow people who have received temporary protected status and deferred enforced departure, as well as their spouses and children, to apply for green cards and naturalize after 3 years.
还有就是这个途径也容许了一些拿到了暂时受保护的一些身份，还有一些延迟去执行执法的延迟去遣返的一些人，还有他们的伴侣，还有他们的小孩，去容许他们拿到绿卡，还有去在3年之后入籍。
The bill would also allow farm workers who can show their work history in the U.S. The opportunity to apply for a green card and then to naturalize after 3 years.
这个提案也将会容许一些在农田工作的一些农夫去根据显示他们的一些工作的一些历史，去容许他们去申请绿卡，还有去让他们去入籍。
So these 3 categories, undocumented young immigrants who arrived under 18 years of age, people who have temporary protected status and deferred enforced departure, and farm workers, they are all put under a faster track to citizenship under this bill.
所以根据这个移民的提案，在来美的时候是无证的来美的儿童，还有暂时的临时的身份，还有延迟遣返，还有农民，这些人他们都会在这个提案里面拿到绿卡的机会。
The U.S. Citizenship Act would also eliminate restrictions on family-sponsored immigration, which would make it easier for spouses and children to join their family members in the U.S.
他这个提案也会拿走这个废除这个对家庭移民的一些限制，去让伴侣或者小孩去跟家庭在美国团聚的时候变得更容易。
Thanks. Can we go to the next slide? So as I've said before, this is only a proposal. Nothing has passed.
正如我们刚才所说的，这个只是一个提案，目前还没有被通过。
So the other highlights of the U.S. Citizenship Act includes changing the way we talk about individuals who have immigrated from other countries. So we now are using the word non-citizen in our federal laws, which would replace the word alien.
另外就是另外一个改变就是，在这个联邦法律里面，他们不会再用外国人 alien 这个字，而是用非公民 non-citizen 来代替。
And in fact, the Department of Homeland Security, including the Immigration Service, has already started to do that. They've already implemented that change.
事实上，现在美国的移民局已经开始这样做了。
And I think that this is a very important change. It's not purely symbolic.
我觉得这个是非常重要的，而不是仅仅是那个象征性的。
Also, I just wanted to note that the bill as written does not currently focus on increased border enforcement.
最后我想说的是，这个提案并没有并没有把重点放在增加这个边境的管制。
But we think that will probably be up for negotiation.
但是我们觉得这个可能会在他们可能是谈判的筹码的一部分。
So can we go to the next slide? Okay. So the second major bill that I'd like to discuss is called the American Dream and Promise Act of 2021.
另外一个我想说的一个提案叫做 American Dream and Promise Act of 2021，也就是说一个美国梦还有的答应法案2021年。
And there are essentially two categories of people that would have to might benefit from this bill.
基本上是有2种人是可以在这个提案中受益的。
And it is a proposal that would create a pathway to citizenship for undocumented young people, also known as dreamers, and recipients of TPS and DED, which I referred to earlier when I talked about the U.S. Citizenship Act.
这个法案将会去提供一个方法，去让一些无证的一些青少年，也就是叫做 dreamers 梦想者，还有我们刚才所说的 TPS， 也就是暂时的保护的身份，还有 DED， 也就是延迟遣返的受益者，去让他们拿到一个成为公民的一个途径。
So the Dream and Promise bill would give conditional green card status to undocumented young people for 10 years and cancel their removal proceedings if they can meet certain requirements.
所以这个提案将会容许一些无证的少年去给他们一个有条件的永久居民身份，给他们10年的身份，还有去取消他们的遣返的目前的一些案件，如果他们是满足某一些条件的话。
So among the main requirements is that they have to show that they were 18 years or younger on their initial entry into the US.
其中一个很重要的要求就是，他们必须要证明说他们是在18岁或者是以下的时候进入美国的。
Can we go to the next slide? So I'm still talking about the American Dream and Promise Act.
我现在还是在说这个美国梦还有承诺的一个提案。
So in order to apply for full green card status, an undocumented young person must show several things.
如果是我刚才说的人，他们想要拿到绿卡的话，他们需要去做以下的一些条件。
So they have to get a degree from a US institution of higher education.
他们需要去有一个美国的高等教育的学位，
or complete at least 2 years in good standing in a bachelor's or higher degree program.
或者是完成最少2年一个学士的学位，或者是在一个或者是其他的学位，更高等的学位。
Or in an area career and technical education program at a post-secondary level in the US.
或者是在美国的一个高等教育之上的一个事业，或者是技术性的一个教育的课程。
Or the undocumented young person must complete at least 2 years of military service.
或者是他们也可以去完成最少2年的当兵。
And if they were discharged, they have to show that they received an honorable discharge.
而如果是他们是被退役的话，他们需要去证明这个是有荣誉的一个退役。
Or this undocumented young person has to show that they worked for specified periods of time.
或者是他们需要去证明说他们在某一个时间里面是在工作的。
So for the other categories of people who are trying to get green card status, this is the TPS and DED recipients. They have to show some other things.
如果他们是想要拿绿卡的话，这些TPS 还有 DED， 也就是暂时受保护的身份，还有暂时延迟被遣返的受益人，需要去证明以下的东西。
So those TPS and DED people must show that they have been in the US for 3 years before the law is enacted.
他们需要去证明说他们是在这个法提案去生效之前的3年前就已经在美国生活。
And were eligible for or had TPS on September 17, 2017.
或者是他们是在2017年9月17号之前就已经可以有资格申请暂时保护的身份。
Or had DED as of January 20, 2021.
或者是在2021年的1月20号，他们就已经有这个延迟遣返的身份。
So I just also wanted to emphasize that this Dream and Promise Act clarifies that someone with TPS will be considered as having been inspected and admitted into the US, which is an important concept for green card purposes.
这个提案也定义了 有拿到TPS，也就是说暂时保护身份的人，是被定义为已经被通过已经被审查，还有已经被容许进入了美国，而这个元素在拿到绿卡这方面是非常重要的。
Next slide, please. So the third bill that has been proposed but has not been passed is called the Citizenship for Essential Workers Act.
第三个提案还是没有通过的，叫做 Citizenship for Essential Workers Act， 也就是说，这些必要的雇员的公民法。
And this bill would create an eventual pathway to citizenship for undocumented essential workers.
这个提案会容许一些没有无证的移民，而是他们是重要的工人的话，就可以容许他们去拿到一个成为入籍的途径。
It would allow non-citizen workers in sectors like healthcare, construction, domestic workers, restaurant workers, and others to apply for green card status.
这个提案会容许一些非公民的一些重要的工人包括医疗工程的家里的一些照顾家里的一些雇员餐馆的员工，还有其他项目的人去申请成为绿卡拥有者。
Next slide, please. So as I've tried to emphasize, none of the three proposed bills that I just covered have passed. They're all proposals.
正如我之前所强调的，我刚才所提及的三个提案都还没有通过。
And I also want to say that the general agreement or consensus among immigration lawyers and advocates is that the US citizenship bill, which is the biggest of those bills, may not pass.
目前一些移民的律师的一些共识就是有关于这个 US Citizenship Act Bill， 也就是比较重大的有关于美国公民的法案可能不会获得通过。
But instead, it will kick off smaller targeted bills for certain groups of immigrants. For example, recipients of DACA, as well as agricultural workers.
但是他应该会去开始一些比较小的有针对性的一些法案，去容许某一些团体一些移民的团体，包括DACA 的一些受益者，或者是农业的工人。
I should mention that the American Dream and Promise Act has actually passed the House, but the Senate has not taken up the bill.
我想去说一下的是，美国梦还有承诺的法案，在这个参议院里面，不好意思，众议院里面获得通过，但是还没有在众议院通过，还没有在参议院通过。
Thank you. So I just wanted to leave you with the two important concepts, which is that in order for a bill to pass, Congress has to pass it and the president has to sign the bill.
另外一个，我想去强调的是，去通过一个法案，首先国会需要去通过这个法案，第二就是总统需要去签署这个法案。
So we would urge people who are interested in seeing positive immigration policies to organize and connect with other individuals who are seeking change and who are seeking sensible and humane immigration policies.
所以我们会鼓励去对这些问题有兴趣的人去跟其他的一些移民去联系，去组织，去寻求改变，去让这个美国的移民的政策去有一个比较更好的、更人道的一个移民的政策。
Thank you. So that ends my part of the presentation, and I believe one of my colleagues will take over from here.
谢谢，这就是我的我讲的部分，我的其他的一些同事将会去说一下其他的讲座的内容。
Thank you so much for that, Annie. This is Jenny, and would you move to the next slide, please?
谢谢你，我是 Jenny，我们现在下一页。
So what Annie has covered just really was great because it really shows us what's possible if we unite together. The other reason why, I'm sorry. Yes.
你刚才所说的是很好的，因为他们可以检视了，我们需要去一起才能去做一些事情。
That sensible immigration reform is not here yet. So I'm here to also give you some warnings about to understand and reiterate that the Biden administration's proposals that we just went over, they are not law yet, and there is no new immigration options available at this point.
我想去说刚才所说的就是，目前还没有一个移民的改革还没有通过，那所以目前我们还没有一个选项去另外一个选项去做。
That important point is worth iterating again because of two things. One, obviously, in order for us to get to passing sensible immigration reform that actually helps people and is humane, we need to work together to fight for it. And two, because unfortunately, people are taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of confusion about what's passed and what's not passed.
首先就是第一是我们是要知道的是，如果是要通过一个更人道的一些移民改革的话，我们需要去争取。第二就是我们也大众有很多一些困惑，是想要知道哪一个是已经通过，哪一个是还没有通过的。
So I'm here to talk to you also about immigration fraud.
我现在想说的是有关于移民的骗局。
Because there is no new immigration option that's available, a lot of people who are either calling you that you're consulting with, who are promising you that there are new options or there's a quicker way for you to stabilize your immigration process, that's not true, and they're trying to defraud you.
由于现在目前还没有一个另外的一些移民的选项，没有新的选项，那所以现在会有人去跟你说，有一些新的方法去让你去更快的去处理的移民申请，而这些通常都是骗局，而通常不是真的。
So because of that, I want to give you two things. One is to give you some idea as to what you should do. And two, also talk about some of the scams that's out there so that you are alerted to it and you're aware of it.
所以主要说的是两个部分，第一个就是如果有听到这些骗局的话，应该怎么做？第二就是去了解一下有什么样的骗局现在是在外面的，然后去如何去留意这些骗局。
What you should do is that before you agree to give someone money to stabilize your immigration status, or you apply for anything, you should consult with a reputable immigration attorney.
首先是如果你是考虑去付钱，去让你的移民的申请更 更稳定、更有利的时候，你应该先去找一个有经验的移民律师去咨询。
To find out if the person that you're talking to is a reputable immigration attorney, one, we're going to give you some numbers that you should call for free consultation. And two, so if you find, one, if you find attorney through those process, then probably you are looking at someone who is an immigration attorney of good standing.
所以我将会给你一些电话号码，如果你给一个清单，如果你是通过那个方法去找移民律师的话，他们有更大机会是他们是有资历的、有资格的律师，去可以给你合资格的答案。
And secondly, if you get someone a name of an immigration attorney, you should definitely Google that person to try to see if this is indeed someone who's doing immigration, and also to see if that person is not barred from practicing. Because unfortunately, sorry, I'll stop there.
如果是找到一个律师的话，你应该去在 Google 上面去寻找一下他，去看他们是不是有这个的律师，他们是不是专门去做移民的律师，还有他们有没有一些做一些违章的一些问题的记录。
Okay, next slide. Okay, so now I just want to talk to you very briefly about some of the common schemes that we have been seeing.
我们会说一下有关于我们看到的一些常见的移民骗局。
So number one thing to say is that there is no new amnesty.
目前的
So if someone is saying to you, yes.
目前首先的是没有一个10年的赦免。
So if someone is calling you or someone is promising you that there's new option, there's a new amnesty, so you should apply for something right now and give them money, you should know that they are probably trying to defraud you.
所以如果有人去打电话给你，跟你说，你应该去申请付钱给他，然后去申请一个10年的赦免，这个很大这个是一个诈骗。
One of the old schemes is someone who's going to tell you that there is something called 10-year amnesty, which is basically saying that if you have been in this country for 10 years and if you have a child, then there's this amnesty that you can apply to. That is not true.
其实一个常见的诈骗就是说，如果你是在美国有小孩，然后你已经留了美国超过10年的话，你就可以申请一个赦免，这个不是真的。
So there is this little exception for someone who has been lived in the United States continuously since January 1st, 1972, but that also has different things that you'll need to fit. So again, you should contact a reputable immigration attorney to figure out what your options are.
是其中有一个规矩是，如果你是在1月1号1972年开始在美国住，一直在住的话，这个是有另外一个途径，但是也有另外的一些条件，所以你应该先找一个有资格的律师去跟他们咨询。
The other thing that we have been hearing about is that people are saying that people are calling them and saying you should enter diversity visa right now and give us some money for it. Or if you already had applied for diversity visa, there's a way to quicken that process.
另外一个常见的移民骗局就是说，有关于一个多元的签证的一个抽签，有些人会说，你可以付钱去加速这个抽签的程序，或者去申请这个程序，这个是假的。
There is such thing as diversity visa.
这个多元的
Yes, it's actually quite interesting. Yes, it's actually quite interesting to think about winning it as coming here as winning a lottery. But yes, there is such a thing. However, there is a very specific process there.
这个多元的签证是存在的，但是是有一个很特定的一个过程。
You can get this information by Googling diversity lottery, but definitely check out the US State Department website.
有很多的方法可以去看一下有关于这个多元签证，抽奖，也就是 diversity visa lottery，尤其是你可以去看美国的国务院的一个网页。
No US government official is going to give you a call and ask you for money because now you won this lottery.
不会有美国官员打电话给你，然后跟你说你赢了这个抽奖。
The third thing we've been hearing a lot is that because there's so much delay in the actual processing of application that's already submitted, that people have been calling to say if you give them money, that there's a way to quicken up this process.
另外就是因为之前的案子比较延迟比较严重，那所以有一些人会诈骗的方法就是说，你付我钱，然后我就可以加速你的申请。
Unfortunately, there is no such way, and then no money or no attorney who has ties to the politicians are going to actually be able to get you that. So please don't waste your money thinking that that's a possibility.
这个也是假的，所以不要认为说，可以付钱给一些政客，他们就可以帮助你去加快这个申请，所以这个是假的。
The other thing that we have been hearing from the Attorney General is that there's some folks who have been targeting specifically Chinese immigrants.
另外我们从美国的纽约的州检察官所提到的，就是说有一些移民的诈骗是专门针对华裔的移民的。
These scammers are calling in Mandarin, and from number that actually looks like they're calling from China. And they will say things like, if you don't give them some money, you're going to have problem going back to the country because of either some kind of police matter or because there's something wrong with your travel document.
这些骗局他们都会有些时候会用普通话还有他们会用这些来自国内的电话去打电话给你，然后跟你说如果你不去付他们钱的话，他们就会回国的话就会有问题，可能是有关于警察，可能是有关于其他事情。
These are really scary things. So if you get a call like this, next slide.
这个是很严重的问题。如果你收到这样的电话的话，
Please call these numbers. Immigration fraud is real. And
打这些电话，移民诈骗是真实存在的。
so you're seeing 3 different numbers. One is New York City Department of Consumer. You can call them by calling 311.
你可以看这有几个电话第一个是纽约市的消费者，还有劳工保护你可以打电话给311。
As you probably know, if you call 311 and just let them know which language you speak, they will connect you through an interpreter, if not someone who speaks Mandarin or Cantonese or whichever language that you speak.
如果打311的话你跟他们说的话，他们会给你一个传译员，或者是他们会找一个会说你的语言的人去跟你交涉。
And all the New York City websites forms are translated in the language that you need. So you can actually also do this on the website.
而这些表格报告的表格都是已经被翻译成为中文的，所以你可以去他们的网站去看这些翻译的资料。
New York State Attorney General is taking seriously about these matters and assisting immigrants from being defrauded. So that's another number to call. There's another website that you can also contact.
纽约州的总检察官，他们也很重视这个问题，所以他们也有另外一个电话。
The reason why we know about these scams is because people have called, and that's how we knew about it, to warn people. So if you are scammed, it takes a little, but please do report.
我们知道有一些移民诈骗是因为有人去报告，所以如果你是有遇到这些情况的话，请记得去报告。
Next slide. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about some of the immigration options that are available. These are old options, but it's worth repeating.
接下来我们会说一下有关于常见的移民的方法，这些都是之前已经存在的一些老的方法，但是还是值得重复再说的。
There are 4 major ways that you can obtain a green card, legal permanent residency.
主要有4种获得绿卡的方式，也就是永久居民的方式。
One major way is if your immediate family member who is a US citizen or legal permanent resident applies for you, petitions for you.
一个很重要的一个方法就是你有一个亲切的跟你有亲密关系的家人去帮你去申请。
And as you can see, the majority of people become legal permanent resident through this process. By 65% of the people who become legal permanent residents actually go through this method.
你可以看到大部分的人都是通过这个方法申请的，是大概有65%。
The other options are that there are specific humanitarian visas, which actually me and Ting are going to go a little bit more in depth. That may get you green card, legal permanent residency as well.
另外也有一种是有关于人道理由所提供的绿卡这个将会我们Ting将会再详细的说。
These are for people who are fleeing their country because of persecution, or people who are victims of crime in United States.
这些申请的人，他们是在他们的国家被检控的人，被逼害的人，或者是在美国的是一个罪行的受害者。
The other is through employment, but again, employment is actually quite limited. So if you want to think about these options, please again consult with an immigration attorney.
另外一种就是就业的一个工作的移民，那这个是比较特定的，所以如果你有这个问题的话，应该去跟律师去咨询。
And there's a very small percentage of people who become legal permanent residents through diversity visa program.
另外一个很少的百分比是通过这个多元签证的抽奖去拿到绿卡的。
Okay, next slide. Okay, so there is an option called VAWA Selfpetition.
有一种方法，其中一个申请叫做 VAWA，这个自己的一个申请。
These are options for people, spouses or children or parents of US citizen or legal permanent resident who had been either battered or treated with extreme cruelty.
这个是叫防止妇女暴力条例是容许被虐待的美国的容许被虐待的伴侣或者是小孩 去，因为他们被虐待，或者是通过一个极端的残酷的对待去拿到绿卡。
I don't know how battered is being translated in Mandarin, but in English, I mean, it sounds really cruel, but it is actually what it is. Being battered actually does mean someone is being hit or physically hurt.
我不知道被暴打的中文听起来是什么样，但是在英文的话，暴打这个意思就是很残酷的，就是一个被攻击。
Or the other part is treated with extreme cruelty.
或者是对方用极端的残酷去对待他。
For these people, there are other eligibility factors. They don't need their spouse or their parent or their children to apply for it. This is a self-petition that you don't need to do. You can do on your own. If you are a victim or survivor of domestic violence,
在这一种的申请，如果你是家庭暴力的受害者，或者是其他的一些暴力受害者，你是不需要去通过其他人帮你去申请，你不需要通过你的伴侣，或者是你的小孩，或者是家人去帮你去提出申请，你是可以自己申请的。
Yeah, let me go to the next one then. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. The other option is what we call U visa. And this is for people who are victims of specific crime.
另外一种叫做 U 签证，是某一特定的一些罪行的受害者，的人去申请的。
So for victims of specific crime, like abused, someone who has been either abducted, or I'm just going to give a very brief summary because there's actually quite a list. People who had been basically assaulted, who had been raped, sexually assaulted, people who had been kidnapped. There are some specific crimes, but people who are victims of these crimes, who have reported to the police and assisted in the prosecution of these crimes, have an option called U visa.
OK， 这些是有一个很特定的一些罪行，有一系列的清单，我就是举出其中的几种，譬如说是被捞走、被绑架、被强奸、被性侵犯，这些受害人的话，他们如果帮助警察去破案的话，是有可以去申请这个 U 签证。
You protect yourself. Obviously, if you have been a victim of such crime, you should contact the police and make sure that there is a prosecution of such crime.
当然要保护自己，你当然去第一时间要去报告给警察，然后去提供一个去确定他们会去提告。
It is really scary for immigrants, especially who don't have documentation of or what we call legal status, to contact the police. But this is one of those cases where it will really help you. It will help you, obviously, to stay safe, and it will also help you with immigration.
我知道，如果是没有身份的话，去报案、去跟警察局交涉，这个可能是很困难的事情。但是在这个情况下，其实会帮助你，不单只是因为他可以为你保护你，跟警方报案的话可以保护你，也可以在这个移民上面也会对你有帮助。
The other option is called T visa. These are for people who are trafficked victims.
另外一种叫做 T 签证，他们是譬如说，如果你是人口拐卖的一个受害者，
So it's trafficking is a little bit confusing, but basically you were transported or you were enslaved to work. So there's two different kinds of trafficking. There's a labor trafficking and sex trafficking.
拐卖者，主要是有两种，一种是人口的拐卖，另外一种是性拐卖。墙壁老师
Since this is very specific, again, I'm just going to punt it by saying, please do consult with an attorney who may go over immigration options for you. I
但
think
是因为
Ting,
这
you're
个是
coming.
因为这个是很特定的一些东西呢，所以我会建议你去找一个移民律师去咨询。
Okay, next slide, and I believe Ting is going to come.
Great.
Here.
Sure. Thanks, Jenny. And I apologize in advance if there are any problems with the internet connection. But today I'm going to continue talking about the other immigration options.
谢谢 Jenny。如果我之后会有一些网络的问题的话，我先抱歉。接下来会说一下有关于其他的一些常见的移民的选项。
So one other immigration option is something that's called special immigrant juvenile status. And it is a process where the person who is seeking a green card has to go to family court, and after family court submits their immigration application to the US government.
另外其中一个选项叫做特殊青少年移民身份，是他们需要去家事法院里面去申请一个特别的一个移民的身份。
And on the day that the person submits their immigration application, they need to show the following things.
然后他们就会申请去这个法院里面做申请，然后在申请的当天，他们需要去证明几个东西。
And the following things are also stated in a formal order that is signed by the family court judge.
最后这个申请的结果会是一个命令，由这个家事法院的法官去签署。
So on the day that the person submits an application for special immigrant juvenile status, they need to show that they are under 21 years old and unmarried.
当天去申请特殊青少年移民身份的人，当天他们需要去证明他们是21岁以下，他们是未婚。
They also need to show that they were either abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both parents.
他们也需要证明他们要不就是被虐待，或者是被遗弃，或者是被疏忽照顾，是他们的其中一个或者是两个父母。
Right. And because of that mistreatment, reunification with either one or both of those parents is not possible.
而也需要证明，因为我们刚才所说的不当的照顾，所以跟那一个父母跟他们团聚是不可能的。
The third requirement is that this person needs to be declared as a dependent by a juvenile court.
第三个就是他们需要让被这个青少年的法院去定义，去视为一个依赖者。
And I misspoke. That's the fourth requirement.
不好意思，我刚才说错，这是第4个要求。
And for this fourth requirement, this is actually the family court process that the person goes through before submitting the immigration application.
而这个是一个家事法院的申请的一部分，是在做出这个特殊青少年移民身份之前，需要去处理的一个程序。
And finally, the fifth requirement that the person needs to show is that it is not in their best interest to return to their home country.
最后第5个就是 要求就是他们需要证明，对他来说回去自己的国家不是对他最好的。
Right. And like the VAWA Selfpetition, the U visa, and the T visa, when someone applies for CIG and immigration approves the application, then the person is able to change their legal status from that approved application to a green card holder.
跟 VAWA 还有U visa 还有 U 签证还有 V 签证一样，当他们去成功申请之后，他们就可以去把身份转为绿卡。
Okay. Next slide, please. So another option that a lot of people are familiar with is applying for asylum in the United States.
另外一个大家可能听过的是，很多人都知道的是，申请这个庇护。
In order to receive asylum, you need to either show that you have suffered past persecution.
如果去要申请的话，你必须要去证明，要不就是证明你之前有曾经遭受过迫害，
or forward thinking that you have a well-founded fear of future persecution.
或者是你有一个很有基础的一个理由去害怕、惧怕，之后你会遭受迫害。
And that fear of returning home is connected to one of the 5 protected grounds under U.S. asylum law.
而这个恐惧是跟移民法所定义之下的5个不同的一个方面是有关的。
And the 5 protected grounds for asylum are the following: race, religion, nationality, political opinion, and membership in a group, a social group.
而有关移民法的庇护里面说5个，或者是5个不同的一些基础，是种族、宗教、国籍，或者是某一个社会团体的成员，或者是政治的意见。
And in order to apply for asylum, generally, you need to send, at the latest, 1 year after your most recent entry into the United States.
一般来说，如果要去申请庇护的话，你必须要在进入美国的1年之内去申请。
There are exceptions to this 1-year filing rule, and it's dependent on your own individual circumstances and why you did not file on time.
但是也有一些例外的情况是让你可以申请的，但是这个是视乎你的个人的一些情况去解释为什么你是不可以在这1年之内去申请。
Generally, when someone applies for asylum, they are either applying for asylum with the asylum office or with immigration court.
通常就是申请这个庇护的时候，他们要不就是去跟这个庇护的办公室去申请，要不就是跟移民法院去申请。
And when someone has their asylum interview and is not successful, typically the asylum officer refers the person's case to immigration court afterwards.
而如果是跟这个庇护官去申请庇护，然后不成功的话，通常庇护官就会把这个案件转给移民的法官、移民的法院。
And in that situation, the case becomes riskier because when someone is in immigration court, there is a chance that you would lose your case and the judge will order you removed from the United States.
但是这个情况之下就会有风险的，因为当你的案子到了移民法院的话，你就有可能输的话就会被遣返。
The rules for applying for asylum in the United States say that if your asylum application is referred from the asylum office to immigration court, you actually have a second chance to have the immigration judge decide your asylum application again.
这个美国移民法里面是有一个条款，就是说，如果你的移民庇护官拒绝你的 你的申请的话，你可以要求他去重新去做出决定。
And this is a notice that I actually want to say for all of the immigration options that Jenny and I have talked about.
这个是我们刚才我跟 Jenny 所说过的一些移民选项里面是其中一部分。
So all of these immigration options, you start the process by filling out an application form. It is one thing to fill out a form. However, like Jenny has said before, it is best that you consult with a lawyer who is familiar with the rules concerning the type of application and what to expect when you have your interview or when you have your application formally decided by a judge.
通常去申请做这些申请只需要填一个表格，但是去填一个表格，你还是应该去跟那个律师去咨询，因为很多东西需要去准备，包括去有什么材料去准备，如何去准备一个面试之类的东西，你都需要去去跟一些律师就是这个咨询。
And with that warning, I'm going to now turn I'm going to ask Jenny to continue with the presentation where we have resources on how to connect with low cost, free and private immigration lawyers.
所以我说这里的话，我就会把这个题目交给Jenny 去说一下，你可以从哪里去拿到一些收费比较低的或者是免费的一些资源，去让你去拥有这些资源。
Thank you so much, Ting. Can we go to the next slide, please?
谢谢Ting。我们去看一下下一页。
Okay. Oh, great. Yes. So as Ting was talking about, and I was also emphasizing, it is really important to consult with an immigration attorney before you file anything. Immigration has a long, long memory.
正如刚才Ting所说的，
Sorry.
在你申请之前，很重要的是去咨询一个移民的律师。
Immigration has a long memory, meaning until you become a US citizen, at every step of the way, whatever you have submitted, any evidence that they have gathered is going to be in your file. And that's why it's going to be something that you have to navigate.
移民官他们是一个很长的记忆。你的意思是说，在你做申请的时候，从一开始到最后你所提交的任何的东西，他们都会保留。
So what's great though is that we have a lot of resources here in New York City for you.
但是好的消息是在纽约市，我们有很多一些好的一个资源是可以使用的。
First one is Action NYC. It's actually run by the New York City Mayor's Office for Immigrant Affairs.
第一个是 Action NYC， 是纽约市长的移民事件的办公室运作的。
There is one free 1-800 number, or you can just dial 1311 and ask to speak to someone about immigration, and they will refer you to Action NYC.
上面一个800的号码，但是或者你也可以打电话给311，然后跟他们说你有一些移民上的问题，然后他们就会说 Action NYC， 然后他们就会给你转电话。
Action NYC will connect you to do a thorough immigration options intake.
Action NYC 这样会给你做一个很细节的移民的一个初步的一个查询。
They will also answer any immigration-related questions.
他们也可以帮你去回答有关于移民的问题。
So, for example, if you have questions about if my child applies for food stamps or SNAP, would it have any immigration consequences? I know this was one of the biggest questions during the Trump administration. If you have those questions, Action NYC will get you answers.
譬如说，如果你的问题是你的小孩如果申请粮食券的话，会不会影响他的移民的身份？这个是我们之前在 Trump 的政府的时候听到过很多问题。那如果你打电话给 Action NYC 的话，他们可以帮助回答这些问题。
And through those, if you have, they would do a thorough intake of your immigration options. And if you have any options that where, and you qualify for any of the free services, they will also refer you to places that Ting and I and other great nonprofit immigration attorneys are working.
他们会给你做一个初步的一个调查，然后他们会告诉你去有没有资格去拿到一些资源，一些资源是听，还有我，还有其他很有能力的一些移民法律师在工作的机构。
And this is without any cost to you.
而这个是免费的。
And also, they will keep your information confidential.
他们也会把你的资料保密。
Next slide. Okay. There are a lot of nonprofit organizations who are assisting low-income immigrants to apply for some of the visas that we talked about. And if you go to that website that you are looking at, you will be able to get a directory of all the nonprofit legal services providers.
也有很多非牟利的一些移民的机构可以让你可以为你提供帮助。你可以去这个网站的话，你可以看到一系列的一些不同的机构。
Before I introduce the next option, I wanted to give you a warning that if you're a non-citizen, so not citizen yet, right? And you were either arrested or have any kind of prior criminal history, you should definitely consult with an immigration attorney before you submit for any immigration benefits, such as citizenship.
还有很重要的是，如果你是一个非公民，但是如果之前被拘捕过，或者是有一个刑事的案底的话，你必须要去跟一个移民律师商量，在你做出任何的申请之前，包括入籍的申请。
It doesn't mean that you don't qualify. It just means that there may be some difficulties that can actually get you more in trouble rather than get you the immigration benefit. So it's always good to check to see and speak with someone who knows about criminal history and how it affects immigration options before you submit anything.
所以应该是你在做出申请之前，先跟一个移民律师去说一下你之前的刑事的记录，才去做申请。
There is this great organization called Immigrant Defense Project, and you see their number there. Their specialty is with anyone with arrest or other criminal history.
你可以上面看到其中一个组织叫做 Immigrant Defense Project， 移民辩护的那个工作，他们是有一个电话可以让你们去咨询。
Okay, next, please. Okay, and these are ways. There's and you should also speak to private immigration attorneys. Albany has a legal referral information services, and you see the numbers there.
另外还有一些私人的移民律师，而纽约亚裔律师协会有一个 简介的服务，可以咨询的服务，可以让你去咨询上面有一个电话，还有相关的语言，你可以去字典。
And you see 2 other referral services there, which is American Immigrant Lawyers Association and also New York City Bar Association.
另外也有2个机构，一个是American Immigration Lawyers Association 美国移民律师协会，还有纽约市律师协会的转介服务。
Again, it's, I think, really important that you try to go through these services because, again, finding a reputable immigration attorney is very important in this process.
这个有知道有律师的帮助的话，是对整个申请的过程是非常有帮助的。
Okay, next slide.
Okay,
Ting.
thanks, Jenny. So being mindful of the time, I'm just going to go over briefly how you, or if you know someone, have a immigration case, how you can find out information about the status of what stage it's at the moment.
我可以很快的说一下，如果你是有一个申请的话，是如何去查阅你的现在的案情的进度。
The first thing that I want to notify everyone is that there is an immense backlog of pending cases with immigration because of the pandemic, but also regular backlogs. Even before the pandemic, cases are taking longer to be decided.
需要知道的是，目前就有一个很大的一个还没有处理好的案件，这个是在疫情之前就已经有了，是有大量的移民的案子还没积累下来的还没处理。
That being said, if you know someone who has a pending immigration case, the first thing that you should probably do is locate a piece of paper that is the receipt notice.
这个一个很重要的东西是，如果你是收到一些文件申请的文件的话，你会看到一个叫做receipt number 一个收据的号码。
For the people attending this presentation, there is we put up a picture of what a receipt notice looks like on the right part of this slide.
你可以在这个画面的右边可以看到一个 receipt number 的样子。
And usually a receipt number, it starts with 3 letters and then it's followed by maybe 8 or 9 digits.
是有一个英文字母，还有之后会有8个或者是9个数字。
And on this slide are the various options to find out information about your case.
从这个他们会能够查出你的案子的进度。
The first website, and by the way, all of these websites, unfortunately, they are in English, but you can always use Google Translate to find out and input the English sentences to see how it appears in Mandarin or your language.
这些资料都是用英文去显示的，但是你可以用Google 的翻译去看，中文的话会是翻译之后会是什么意思？
So the first website is a website where you would enter your receipt number and the system will automatically show you the status of this pending application.
第一个网站是可以让你去输入你的案子号码，然后他们会告诉你现在的案子的进度。
The second website on this slide tells you the case processing type of your type of application.
第二个是会告诉你你的现在你的类型的案子，他们的处理的时间要多久。
So for example, if I have a pending citizenship application, I would go to the second website and then click on the citizenship application. And I live in New York, so I would click on the New York field office. And from there, I can see that, oh, today, June 2021, they are looking at applications that are received in August 2019, for example.
譬如说，如果我是住在纽约的话，我有一个入籍的申请，我现在去网站去看到，我现在是6月，原来他们现在还是在处理去年的8月的一些案子。
Okay, and so that is a website for you to see, oh, why is it taking so long? Actually, it's not, because it is within normal case processing times.
这个是可以帮助你去知道去处理这类型的跟你一样的案子是要处理多久。那这样的话，你就不会说为什么他们这么晚还没有处理好？那是因为他们一般去处理这一类的案子都是这样的。
The third website on the slide is when you realize, hey, my pending case, it's pending way too long and it's beyond normal case processing times.
第三个网站就是说，如果你的案子是远远超过正常的处理时间。
And in this third website, you can actually fill out an online form with the USCIS department and explain, I have a case, this is my receipt number, I see that it's past case processing times, what's happening with my case?
第三个可以就直接做出一个表格，跟移民局去问，你这个案子已经远远超过正常处理的时间，现在是发生什么事情？
And this is useful because let's say you send this inquiry and you don't receive a response. And let's say you decide to get the help of a lawyer or maybe a congressional member. Because you made this inquiry, it shows that you have been diligent in trying to see what has happened to your case.
而这个是很重要的。譬如说，如果你之后找到一个律师或者是一个国会的议员去帮你去跟进这个案子的时候，这个就可以显示出你一直都是很用功的，是在跟进这个事情。
Next slide, please.
下一页。
Now, if you have a pending immigration case in court, the first thing that you need to know is your A number, which is an identification number for every non-citizen in the United States.
另外就是去了解你的案子，你需要知道有一个 A 号码，这个 A 号码是给任何所有非公民的人都会有的一个数字。
It usually starts with the letter A and it's an 8 or 9-digit number.
通常是由 A 字母开始，然后之后是8到9个数字组成的。
Once you know your A number, you can find out the status of your case in court, such as your next date in court, or if a decision has been made on your application that's pending with immigration court.
当你知道这个号码之后，你就可以知道之前的有关你的申请的结果，或者是你现在有没有案子是在移民法院里面在进行中的。
And there are two ways to find out the status of your immigration court case. The 1-800 number, which is on the slide, and the website, the first website on the slide.
主要有两个方法，一个是现在在画面上的1800的电话，另外一个是在上面的一个网站。
And similar to the other previous websites that I mentioned, it's also unfortunately in English, but you can always copy and paste the language into Google Translate to see what it says.
跟我们现在之前所说过的一些网站一样，他们都是不幸的，他们是英文，但是你可以到贴下来转贴复制，然后贴到 Google 的翻译上面，可以知道他们知道在你的语言之下他们在说什么。
A notice, the New York City Immigration Court for non-detained hearings, they have been closed for the past 15 months. However, it will reopen officially on July 6th.
现在目前那个网站还I'm sorry, Ting, can you repeat that?
Sure. So non-detained hearings at New York City immigration courts will reopen or go forward beginning on July 6th.
有关于非拘留的聆讯将会在7月6号之后开始继续进行。
And just to give you some background, due to the pandemic, the New York City immigration courts for non-detained hearings, they have been closed for the past 15 months.
给一些资料，就是因为疫情的关系，在过去的15个月里面，所有的非拘留有关的案子都已经被暂停。
Okay, and I'm only talking about court dates, immigration interviews, asylum interviews, cases for people who are in immigration jails, they have been going forward normally, but on a very limited basis.
这是我们说的是灵性，但是如果是其他的一些，比如说庇护或者是其他申请的话，他们还是在进行中，但是是有限度的进行。
And the second website on this slide reflects all of that information that I just said.
我们刚才说的网站会有写上我们刚才所给的一些资料。
Next slide, please.
下一页。
Now, this is a little bit more complex, but if you know that you have some sort of immigration interaction with a US immigration agency, you can actually get a copy of your file for free and it doesn't hurt your case.
如果是你有跟这些政府的部门是有一个案子的话，你是可以拿到那个你的申请的记录的一个副本。
Yes, and getting a copy of your file is free. The important thing is that you know which agency handled your case, and depending on that agency, on the slide are 4 of the typical immigration agencies that handle non-citizens cases.
而拿这个你的案件的档案记录是免费的，而是否你的不同的跟哪一个政府的部门去交涉，你可以在下面不同的政府部门去的网站上面去要求你的档案。
And after filing a request to get a copy of your file, typically the waiting time is 6 to 9 months, and then you receive a copy of your file either in a CD or in an via like an attachment in an email that you wrote on the request to get a copy of your file.
通常是处理时间6到9个月，然后你就会收到一个 CD， 或者是如果是电邮寄给他的话，会是用一个附件的形式。
And this is really important because if you do not have an immigration lawyer, or when you start working with an immigration lawyer, one of the first things that do is see what's already in your file before filing any applications.
这个是很重要的是，因为如果你是有一个律师，或者是你将会去请一个律师的话，他们第一个想要做的是看你之前申请的递交了什么东西。
Okay, and of course, if you don't know how to do these requests, when you find a lawyer in good standing who can assist you, please ask them, I would like to get a copy of my file, and they can file these requests for you. And again, these requests are free. There's no application fee.
如果你是不知道怎么做的话，你可以，如果你找到律师的话，你可以去要求，去让他们帮你去申请要求这些文件。我需要强调的是，这些文件的你自己的档案的话是免费的，你是不用付钱的。
Yeah. Next slide, please.
下一页。
All right, so that concludes our presentation from myself, Jenny, and Annie. We hope that this was really helpful. And I understand that we are now going to also, if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know.
这个就是我还有 Jenny 还有 Annie 的讲座。如果你有任何的问题的话，请让我们知道。
I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded, so please do not share any personal details of yourself.
最后想强调的是，因为现在这个是录音的，所以请不要访问的时候，请不要去透露自己的个人资料。而如果你有问题的话，你可以用 Zoom 的那个功能去举手，或者是那个 Chat 的留言区里面去说。May, if there's no questions, should we go?
Yes, let's go to the next slide for the anti-Asian violence.
OK，
presentation.
在我们开始下一个环节之前，我想先谢谢Ting、Jenny 还有 Annie 今天的讲座。Before we go to the next section on the anti-Asian violence, I'd like to thank Ting, Jennie, and Annie for their generous time and sharing of the latest immigration development. 谢谢，再次谢谢 Ting、Jennie 还有 Annie 他们今天的分享，有关于在移民法上面的问题。希望能够今天能有帮助的大家。
Thank you, everyone.
OK，接下来我们会大概的花一些时间去说一下，过去大家都知道的一些针对亚裔的一些暴力的问题，而今天我想说一下的是，大概去说一下在纽约州关于种族的一些仇恨罪行的一些法律，还有跟遭到暴力之后你应该怎么做，有不同的一些法律上的角度去处理这个事情。在纽约州的话，刑法上面，仇恨罪行主要是有两个条文，一个是240.303，第二个是485.05，240.30是叫做二级严重骚扰，而他们的条文是可以看到是基于对方的种族、肤色、出生国家、种族、性别，之类的，而他们不论这些相信是不是正确。譬如说，如果有人是攻击我，他们觉得我是日本人，所以打我。尽管我不是日本人，我是华人，但是只要是他的攻击我的目的是出于种族或者是其他的一些性别、出生国家之类的话，这个就是会违反到这个二级严重骚扰。而做出攻击、推撞、脚踢或者其他形式导致身体接触或者是尝试这些行为的话，而这个目的是为了骚扰、打扰、威胁或者是对方受到惊慌的话，这个就会构成240.30的二级严重骚扰的一个条文。类似的条文是另外一个485.05，他们这个条文就是开宗明义的叫做 hate crime， 就是仇恨罪行，跟上面的一个差不多，就是说如果一个人是基于以这些情况做出一些特定犯法行为的话，就是干犯了仇恨罪行，包括种族、包括出生国家、性别之类的东西，而不论这些相信是否正确，而去故意选择去这个受害人去伤害对方的话，就会是违反了这个仇恨罪行的一个条文。有一些特定的罪行也包括了攻击、威胁，不一定是攻击那么简单，也包括了杀人、跟踪、缠绕、强奸、性动作、性伤害、非法禁锢、绑架，这些等等等等，都是可以构成仇恨犯罪的一些特定的罪行。那我们知道在法律上面有两种，一个是民事，一个是刑事。那我们刚才说的是刑事，刑事的方式是有人去对你或是对其他人做出一些攻击之后，警察过来，然后警察抓人，然后警察抓人之后，把这个被告带到这个警察局，然后去把他拘留，然后带到法院里面，然后最后由地区检察官去负责去起诉，是一个公诉的罪行，就是刑事。那刑事的话，被告可能就会坐牢，可能就会去暂时的坐牢，或者是被保释出去之类的东西。这个是很大的程度上不是你自己控制的，很大程度上是一个检察官去处理，然后你是作为一个证人去负责帮助检察官去起诉这个被告。那这个是刑事。那民事方面呢，你可以做什么呢？民事方面我们有民事诉讼也就是说一个被害一个受害者是可以自己去法院，而不是要去靠地区检察官，不需要靠警察去起诉对你做出伤害的人。而民事的话，这个救济，也就是这个后果就不会是坐牢，民事的后果是一个金钱上的赔偿。那除了我们刚才说的攻击的话，如果我们是受到一些偏见、一些不当的骚扰的话，应该怎么办呢？譬如说，你到了一个商店里面，那个商店，然后那个商店东主他们说你是华人，然后我不给你，因为你是一个可恶的华人，我不给你做生意，这样好了。这样的话，他没有攻击你，你报警的话，他们也不会说 OK， 因为他跟你说过这些话，他是攻击你，他没有攻击你。那这样的话情况下怎么办呢？ 在纽约的话，另外还有一些法案去保护你的这种情况。我们的法律在纽约市跟纽约州都有特定的法律去处理这些事情。一个就是叫做纽约的人权法。人权法在纽约州有自己的一套，在纽约市也有自己的一套人权法。在纽约州的话，如果有人违反纽约州的人权法的话，你可以去找纽约州的总检察官Attorney General's Office。在纽约市，如果你是觉得有人违反了纽约市的人权法的话，你可以去跟纽约市的人权局New York Commission of Human Rights 去报告这个事情，然后他们就会做出调查，跟刑事的差不多。他们是负责调查，但是最后他们不会做出一些起诉，就是刑事起诉，因为他们不是刑事的一个攻击，但是他们可能会做出民事的起诉，那最后他们可能会要求到对方罚款比如说我刚才给的例子里面，这个东主可能就会去要求赔偿，那所以这个就是除了刑事之外，那我们需要去知道的是有一些民事的不同的途径，所以不是说因为刑事做不了因为刑事我们知道刑事的这个要求是高一点的，刑事要求的是叫做beyond reasonable doubt，你可能听过，是要达到毫无的合理的疑点，但是民事的话叫做 preponderance of evidence， 也就是说是多于，你可以想把它理解成为多于一半的可能是是一个申诉的话，你就可能会赢。所以不要说因为觉得自己没有被攻击，或者是没有被去证明对方是基于种族，那所以就不报警，所以就不去跟进。你需要去知道自己有很多不同的途径可以要求去维权。在我们说完这个之后，那如果是遇到这些事情应该怎么办呢？你可以找的有些我们刚才说了很多的资源在我们纽约亚裔律师协会，我们也有一些组织的一些资源，你可以去参考的。在我们的网站上面，Analyst can you go to right？所以在我们的网站上面也可以到Albany AABANY.org，这是我们的网站，然后上面你可以到这个Pro Bono 的页面上面，你会看到一些资源，这些资源是有中文的你可以在网站上看到一些冠状病毒相关的资源和信息，而不仅于我们刚才说的针对亚裔的暴力，还有其他的移民法律运作住房，还有其他的一些不同的法律范畴里面。那在针对亚裔的暴力和行为里面骚扰行为里面，你会看到不同的一些举报的地方在提及了我刚才所说的地区检察官还有纽约州的总检察官，他们自己都有自己的一些各自的小组去处理一些仇恨的罪行，而不仅是纽约市，而且每一个郡、每一个皇后 Queens 和 Brooklyn 每一个地方的检察官，他们都有自己各自的一些仇恨犯罪的一些小组。那所以，如果你是在这些地方是遭受了仇恨或者是偏见的问题的话，记得去举报，因为有了举报的话，就是政府才会知道这些事情的存在，那才会去跟进。最后你可以在下面也看到一些非政府的组织可以跟他们说一下，这样的话他们就有更多的一些数据，可以帮助你去跟进一些事情，包括亚太政策和计划理事会 Asian American Advancing Justice， 你可以看到不同的资源去看。最后我想说的是，希望大家我知道大家最近在新闻上都看到很多不一样的一些针对亚裔的一些暴力还有事件。那我们在侥幸之余，也需要知道，你如果真的不幸的发生在自己身上的话，我们可以怎么做所以在未雨绸缪，就是在知道要小心之余，也需要知道，如果真的发生在自己身上，或者是发生在自己的朋友身上的话，应该怎么做。好，谢谢大家。今天就是我们所说的针对亚裔暴力行为的一个部分。如果大家有任何的问题的话，也可以在这里发问。 May, so if there's no question, that should conclude our presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you all for coming to our presentation. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us at probono@albany.org. And I wish everyone have a safe and nice night. Thank you.
对，如果大家还有其他问题的话，就是像May所说的，上面是我们的一个电邮，是 probono@albany.org，我们是纽约亚裔律师协会的义务还有社区工作小组，社区服务小组。今天很谢谢大家能够来临，然后希望大家能够去保持安全，还有谢谢大家参与。